Don't worry, just give me a heads up. Okay. Patrick, I need you to do this next weekend, so watch what I'm doing today, okay? You can do it. I had a family emergency. I have to go to Tennessee next Saturday. Sunday. Start filming while I look at my chops. Where is everybody today? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Sunday celebration here at Centers for Spiritual Living, Cape Coral. And we are celebrating your magnificence today. And we want you to know that wherever you are on your spiritual path, you are so very welcome here. Here, our founder and philosophy is Ernest Holmes. We also study all of the great teachings of contemporary Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, and all the traditional, the teachings of Jesus, and you name it, we got it going on here. And this morning, we have an amazing practitioner, Melissa Tuff, who is going to guide our meditation this morning. So please welcome Melissa.
Thank you, Linda. Good morning, everyone. I am here to present a meditation today entitled Surrender What You Cannot Change. There are many things in life that we cannot change. Surrender is a tool we can use to ascend and truly transform our lives, creating lasting change. I find this meditation even more powerful when we raise our hands to the sky when prompted to imagine doing so. I invite you to participate in this activity if you are able. So let us begin by settling into a comfortable position. I invite you to gently close the outer eye if you're comfortable and safe doing so. I would like you to visualize something in your life that you cannot change. It could be something that happened in the past, or perhaps a physical challenge you were born with. Pick something you wish was different, but is not. Breathe in universal source energy. Breathe out all tension and stress. Bring forth the thought in your mind of which you cannot change. See it inside of you. See all the different parts to it. See the fear connected to it. See the frustration. See the anger. See the sadness. Now turn your attention to the fear surrounding what you cannot change. Feel the fear behind it and bring up all of the fear thoughts and emotions. Imagine holding your arms up to the sky, palms facing upward, and say in your mind, I let go of the fears surrounding what I cannot change. I release these fears one at a time, once and for all. I surrender and accept what is. See yourself allowing your arms to drop as your hands return to your center. Now bring up all the frustration surrounding what you cannot change. Feel the frustration. Be with it. Feel it in the center of your being. Envision raising your arms above your head, the palms of your hands facing up, and say in your mind, I let go of all of my frustrations surrounding that which I cannot change. I surrender and accept what is. Take a deep breath and release. Imagine allowing your arms to drop and your hands returning to your center. Now bring up all of the anger inside of you surrounding that which you cannot change. Allow yourself to feel the dark fury surrounding your anger like the deepest parts of hell. Let it rise up within you, and as it rises, imagine raising your arms over your head with your fists clenched tight. Take a deep breath in, and on the out breath, open your fists and release the fury inside of you. Let it out and say in your mind, I let go, I release, I accept, I surrender to that which I cannot change. I let go, I release, I accept, I surrender to that which I cannot change. Take a breath and relax. Observe yourself allowing your arms to drop and your hands returning to center. Now bring up the sadness. During this time, place your hands over your heart and say in your mind, I feel sad, but I am okay. Letting go gives me strength. Acceptance gives me power over my emotions. Surrender gives me freedom. Freedom from the past. Freedom from the things I cannot change. Freedom from fear. Freedom from frustration. Freedom from anger and freedom from sadness. I surrender knowing that acceptance does not make me weak. It makes me strong because I let go of attachment to things I cannot change. I know that surrender brings me closer to the oneness of God. I know that surrender is the only way to be free from all the negativity that surrounds what I cannot change. I surrender knowing that whatever is meant to be. I surrender knowing that my life is my creation. I surrender and I am at peace. Now allow your arms to drop and return your hands to center. Take a moment to relax and allow yourself to feel the feelings of peace in your heart center. Come back fully into your mind and body now. Take a deep, cleansing breath, knowing that every moment is an opportunity to surrender, to release that which we cannot change. And when you are ready, open your eyes. Thank you for joining me for this morning's meditation, and our Sunday celebration will begin momentarily.
Wasn't that lovely? Oops, I forgot my clicker. Thank you, Melissa. I love having a clicker. I feel powerful. So please join me in welcoming, giving lots of love for the Big Love Band.
If you'd like to stand and join us in song, that would be wonderful. We'd love to hear your voices also. Come with me out by the ocean. Come with me out by the sea. Walk with me down by the water. Let me bathe you in the deep. We will build a boat together, turn our faces towards the sun, set ourselves into the wind and set out where we two are one. Oh, come with me. Ooh. Believe and breathe me. Come with me up to the mountain. Come with me up to the sky. Up where we can see forever, suspended between space and time. Ready for whatever happens, nothing like we've ever dreamed. Everything and more awaits us in this land of evergreen. Oh, come with me. Ooh, believe and breathe me. We've got a lifetime to explore. Oh, whenever our feet hit the floor, I want more. Come with me back to the city. Come with me back to the crowd. If you're headed let's stir and bustle. Take my hand, let's live out loud.
Fill me up with true belonging, revel in this ecstasy. Looks just like we always planned it, blessed synchronicity. Oh, come with me. Ooh,
Believe and breathe me.
come with me.
Ooh, believe and breathe me. Come with me. Ooh, believe and breathe me. I send my love,
Send my
over the
love
mountain.
over the mountain.
I send my love,
Send my
over the
love
sea.
over the sea.
I send my love,
Send my love
into the heavens,
into the heavens,
and
it returns to me.
I send my joy,
Send my
over the
joy
mountain.
over the mountain.
I send my joy,
Send my
over the
joy
sea.
over the sea.
I send my joy,
Send my
into
joy
the heavens,
into the heavens,
and
and it returns to me. I send my power over the mountain. I send my power over the sea. I send my power
into the heavens,
and it returns to me.
I send my
I
peace,
send my peace
over the mountain.
over the mountain.
I send my
I
peace,
send my peace
over the sea.
over the sea.
I send my
I
peace,
send my peace
into the heavens,
into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my love over the mountain. I send my love over the sea. I send my love into the heavens, and it returns to me. And it returns to me. And it returns to me.
Let's give them a little more love. I love that song. That is so amazing. So, this is a time, I know you just sat down, but you're going to have to stand back up because we're doing a blessing. So I invite you to rise, and we're going to spread our hands and a welcome blessing to each other and to our community. And for those of you out there in virtual land, you bless each other too, or just turn your hands to yourself. So I invite you to repeat after me, or with me, I should say, the Center for Spiritual Living. We know who you truly are. You are the spiritual image and likeness of God. We appreciate you, we love you, and we are thankful you are here. Welcome to this center.
long as you stand by me. Stand by me, oh, stand by me, oh, stand by me, stand by me. To the sea, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. Stand by me, oh, stand by me, oh, stand by me, stand by me. Stand by me, oh, stand by me, oh, stand by me, stand by me. Stand by me, oh, stand by me, oh, stand. Love that song.
Good morning again, everyone. Thank you again to the Big Love Band for that wonderful, wonderful selection of songs. So as Linda told you earlier, my name is Melissa Tuff, and I am a practitioner here at the Center for Spiritual Living, Cape Coral, and it is my great pleasure to provide the reading and prayer for today's service. This month we are focusing on stepping into the unknown, and this week's theme is the winds of change. The quote I selected from the materials for this week is by Ernest Holmes from Living the Science of Mind, page 202. Instead of being confused by the situations around us, we should be calm, tranquil, and confident that through reforming our word, we can easily change the existing conditions as perpetuate them. I chose a selection for the reading from the Science of Mind magazine, and this is actually from Friday's reading, and it was entitled, Times They're Changing. The planet used to seem so big, so spread out. Not anymore. As much as some of us would like to isolate, that no longer works on Mother Earth. What happens somewhere on the planet winds up affecting another part somewhere else. This is a fact we are going to have to get used to. But I think just as we've done our spiritual work on the microcosmic level, we can begin to do our spiritual work in the macrocosmic realm. Jesus provided a way forward. We cannot live in separation and isolation anymore. We are now being called as never before to remember our oneness with God and with all of life everywhere. We are to find that place within us, individually and collectively, of forgiveness, peace, and love. As we raise the consciousness individually and collectively on this planet, we can overcome any obstacle and begin to create a world that works for everyone. I'm choosing to lift my sights that high for planetary peace. If we could but realize the depth of God's love for us, we would be able to release and let go of the fear that has been running amok in our world as of late. The enemy uses fear to gain power, decrease our hope, and limit our victories. A new day is coming. I see it, and I declare it so. So let us take these ideas into prayer. Taking a moment to quiet any residual chatter that may be going on in the mind, I recognize my connection with that one spirit, that one source, that one mind that breathes life into all creation. Just as I am confident of my connection to this one, I know the same is true for each and every form on this planet and beyond. I recognize and accept that change is inevitable. I know that everything and everyone are created of energy, and the law of conservation of energy tells me that energy can never be created nor destroyed. There is simply a shift, a change that occurs, causing the energy to demonstrate as a new form. Change is unavoidable indeed, and I know that my response to change creates my reality, good or bad. It is all up to me, and I acknowledge my active participation in this creative process. So today I surrender all false beliefs and thoughts that no longer serve me, bravely stepping fully into the acceptance of my co-creational power. I welcome and embrace change as a continuing process of evolution, both in my life and in the world around me. Gracefully, I lay ego aside and allow spirit to live, move, and have its being as me, in its unique way of expressing through me. I bless this change that is unfolding and developing within me right here, right now, and I call it good. So it is for this and so much more that I express my appreciation and sincerest gratitude. I am thankful for the divine download which brought me to this wisdom. I'm grateful for the ascended masters who've provided their constant support and guidance. And I'm thankful for each and every individualized expression of God that my words and actions touch. Immersed in this space of gratitude, I confidently release my word to the law of mind, the law of one, knowing that all truly is good because all is God. And so together we claim this by saying, and so it is. And so it is my great pleasure to introduce our interim minister, Reverend Gregory Toole. Reverend Gregory Toole is an ordained minister with Centers for Spiritual Living. He is the founding spiritual director of Somsiva, whose mission is to inspire authentic, compassionate relationships through spiritual education, tools, and practices that promote peacemaking and conscious action. Gregory is also the author of a book, A Simple Guide to Planetary Transformation. Gregory's teaching is grounded in the idea that each person has great power to transform his or her life. He has taught thousands of students around the world through his classes, individual coaching, writing, and speaking engagements. In his work with Somsiva, Gregory has served 5 different Centers for Spiritual Living communities as their interim minister and has trained other ministers in the art and science of interim ministry. In this work, he has facilitated healing, reconciliation, and renewal by aiding communities in navigating transitions consciously for the purpose of long-term health. Prior to founding Somsiva, Gregory served 6 years at Centers for Spiritual Living Home Office, first as the ecclesiastical leader, then as the director of member support and education. While at Home Office, he was also the president of the Homes Institute. Previously, Gregory served for 5 years as the senior minister of Center for Spiritual Living in Davis, California. Before becoming a minister, Gregory was the executive director of a nonprofit youth development organization in Oakland, California. His career was in the computer industry, where he started as a software developer and then moved into marketing and business development. So please welcome our interim minister, Reverend Gregory O'Toole.
said, I've done this journey a number of times already, so this is not a new experience for me. Gosh, I love the ways that divine order shows up. Divine order just shows up so often, so many times. Oftentimes when I go to speak somewhere, I'm always caught, and by surprisingly and beautifully at the music, and how the music, just without any conversation sometimes, just so perfectly matches the message and what I've been contemplating and all of that sort of thing. And I love the title of the band, the Big Love Band, and I really enjoyed that music this morning. Thank you so much to the Big Love Band. And also, looking at divine order, isn't it divine order that in the first month that I would be serving as your interim minister, because April is when we started this thing, that the theme would be stepping into the unknown. And then isn't it even more divine order that the very first talk that I would give to you all, that the topic would be the winds of change. And mind you, these topics are created, long ago, like last year, before there was any inkling that I would be your interim minister. And so here we are with the monthly theme of stepping into the unknown, and our theme for today of the winds of change. Beautiful divine order as we step into this journey together. It is said that change is the only constant in life. And it's so interesting, right? That change is the only constant, and yet oftentimes change can be really hard for us. And it's kind of like the way the human part of us is wired in a way. There's certain things that we go through with change. And I think part of it is that change is always foreshadowing transformation, our own personal transformation, and the transformation of community, and the transformation of a group. Whenever I go in to be an interim minister, and oftentimes when I go to be an interim minister and I start working with a community in transition and the minister has left, and oftentimes there's a bit of a swirl going on. Oftentimes there's some chaos going on. Oftentimes there's a little bit of power struggles going on. And sometimes relationships are very, very strained, if you will. And I come in and I always tell them that nothing has gone wrong. And I always get a lot of raised eyebrows when I say that, when I say nothing has gone wrong. And they're kind of like, well, it sure seems like a lot has gone wrong. Things are kind of swirling here. But really what has happened, and what the winds of change, and when change is coming about, it's really calling us into transformation. It's really calling us to see that change is being called for. When I say nothing has gone wrong, what I really mean is that we're just being called to shift. We're being called to change. Sometimes it happens even when nothing really seemed to change on the outside. Sometimes like everything seems to be going along just fine, and suddenly there's some friction. Suddenly there's some turbulence, and we don't necessarily understand why. And what I always see in those situations is that we're being called to shift. We're being called to change. In thinking about the title for today's talk, I thought about the times I've been on a sailboat. And most of the times that I've been on a sailboat, I've just been a passenger. It's a big sailboat and I'm just a passenger, and I'm just kicking back and, enjoying, being out on the water and the wind and everything else. But a few times I've been on a sailboat where it was just a few of us, and only one of us knew how to sail, like the person with the boat. And that person guided the rest of us and taught us a few things and gave us some terminology and kind of told us what we were going to need to do at various points along the journey. And then he would call us into action. And I think it's about 3 or 4 times that I've been in that situation. And it seems like each time that I was in that situation, there would be some moment along the journey where the wind would change, the direction of the wind would change, or else we needed to make a change. And the captain or the person who knew what they were doing would suddenly start calling out orders, and it seemed a little frantic. And we would all be getting in our places and trying to remember what we were supposed to do. And it was just that moment, right, where there's a change happening. It was a little bit chaotic, and we had to move into action, and we had to see what this is calling us into. This is a part of what happens with change, that we ask ourselves, what is this calling me to? Collectively, we ask that question. And then, of course, individually, we ask that question, what is this calling me to? One of the interesting things I think about the human, our humanity, is oftentimes it's very easy to entertain the idea, believe the idea, get stuck in the idea that everything is kind of like fixed and everything is kind of like static, you know, and maybe it's that part of us that likes the inertia, part of us that likes the stability, if you will, in quotes, right? And so there's this illusion that everything is static, you know, and it's like, okay, if we can just keep everything the way it is right now, and then like make a few changes that we really want, some like positive things that we really want, like maybe we want a new relationship, or maybe we want a new piano, or whatever it is. But like, okay, but everything else stay the same. You know, I just want to bring this one new thing in. And I've experienced that in my life, even in church, in spiritual community as a minister, where I can think of one scenario when I was the senior minister in Davis, California, and I was going through a divorce at the time. And so that was a major change in my life, you know, major upheaval in my life. And I remember wanting everything else to stay the same, right? Like, okay, this is changing. I'm making this change. Everything else needs to stay the same right now. And of course, we're living on a planet that is floating through space, and not only floating through space, but rotating at the same time. In other words, everything is always in motion. And it's just kind of an illusion sometimes that we can find ourselves in that suggests that things are not really in motion. But in reality, everything is in motion. Our cells, our heart is always beating, the breath is always moving. Things are in motion, right? There's a vibration, there's constant change and shift. And so it really helps in accepting and embracing change when we realize change is always happening. And we just seem to maybe only notice it when it becomes large enough that it gets onto our radar. But perhaps if we could recognize and be aware and embrace the idea that everything is in motion, and therefore life kind of becomes more of a dance, and we're kind of moving with life in all that is unfolding. We're moving with the winds of change. It is said that on a sailboat, that the first thing you do is turn the sails into the wind, right? You turn the sails into the wind, and the second thing you do is you pull up the sail, right? So we rather than go away from the change, rather than go away from what is shifting and sort of withdraw from it, we actually go into it, right? And then we bring up the sail so that the change can propel us in the direction that we're meant to go. And so we're moving with the change as opposed to where we're resisting it or where we're fighting it. There's a man named William Bridges who did a lot of work around change and helping organizations move through change. And he talks about 3 stages of going through a change. The first step is the end, the ending, or the losing, or the letting go. The stage is called the ending, but it's kind of like we can have a sense of loss, and we can have a sense of letting go and of fear and denial, maybe some anger, some sadness, some disorientation, frustration, uncertainty, right? It's that first phase where we recognize that something is changing, and it can be really unsettling, right? And so this is just kind of like how change operates through us in our humanity, especially before we become more conscious with it. before we fully embrace change, before we recognize that really everything is always changing anyway. It's not really like there's a certain circumstance where a major change happens. Everything is constantly in motion, everything is constantly in change. The second stage is the neutral zone. And in the neutral zone, there could be some confusion, there could be some skepticism, there could be some resentment, because that's that place where we've left one shore, right? But we've gotten far enough out to sea that we can no longer see the shore that we left. I mean, we kind of remember it, you know, and we kind of would love to get back to it, but it's kind of distant from us at the moment. And at the same time, we can't quite see the shore that we're going to. And so there we are being tossed about by the sea. We can't really get back to where we were, and yet we can't really see the next shore that we're going to. And for me personally, often that has been the most uncomfortable time, is that neutral zone. Like that first step, you know, it's like, okay, I'm good. Like I like change. A change is happening. I like change. And that last step, the last step is the new beginning. Right? Where we begin to accept the change, we begin to embrace it, and we begin to move forward into the newness that we're being called into. I kind of like those two, the first part and the third part. It's that middle part, right? That's so uncertain, and things that once seemed so solid, and I know exactly what's happening here. I know exactly what to do. And that's kind of mushy now, right? It's kind of fuzzy now. You know, I knew who was doing what, and it's like, well, that's not all the case anymore. Like different people are doing things that they weren't doing before, and people who were doing things that I was counting on to do things before, like in your case, you had a senior minister who did a lot of different things, and now that person's not there to do those things, and other people are stepping in to do different things that they weren't doing before. And it's that neutral zone, right? That space of just, you know, there's a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of unsettledness in us during that period. But we can realize that this is a natural stages, these are natural stages that we go through, then it becomes a little bit easier because we can embrace it rather than resist it, right? We can say, oh, this is kind of how change works. This is kind of how change moves in us as human beings. Richard Rohr, in his daily meditation on August 21st of last year, said, "We seem insistent on not recognizing this universal pattern of growth and change. It seems that each of us has to learn on our own what is well hidden, but also in plain sight." We have to learn on our own what is well hidden, but also in plain sight, which I believe he is really referring to what is well hidden, meaning that change is always happening, although we can't necessarily see it all the time. And then what is in plain sight, that it's also in plain sight that change is the constant, that things are always in motion, and that change is always calling us into newness. Michael Singer, who wrote the Surrender Experiment, and he also wrote The Untethered Soul, but in the Surrender Experiment, it's a beautiful book. It's rather autobiographical about Michael Singer, and it's his journey of surrender and how his life unfolded through the practice of surrender. And he really did what most of us might call a radical version of surrender. Like, he basically said, I'm going to say yes to whatever shows up in life. And this was his experiment. Like, let's see what happens if I just say yes to everything that shows up in life. In other words, he's going to move with life, and he's going to surrender to life rather than resist life. So even when things would show up that weren't what he was planning, or weren't even something he necessarily even liked or wanted, he would embrace it right away. And he would say, okay, it's showing up. And so it's showing up for a reason. So let me embrace it and let me see what this is calling me into. And so here's a quote from his book, The Surrender Experiment. He said, "Something that started out looking totally disastrous had ended up with a positive result. Time and again, I was seeing that if I could handle the winds of the current storm, they would end up blowing in some great gift. I was beginning to view these storms as a harbinger to transformation. Perhaps change only takes place when there is sufficient reason to overcome the inertia of everyday life. Challenging situations create the force needed to bring about change. The problem is that we generally use, this is the key part right here, the problem is that we generally use all the stirred up energy intended to bring about change to resist change. I'm going to read that again. The problem is that we generally use all the stirred up energy that is designed really to bring about the change. We use all that energy to resist change. And the energy is really coming up and bubbling up so that we can now take this big change that we're being called into. But oftentimes our knee-jerk reaction to change is to resist it, right? Like, whoa, I wasn't wanting this to happen. And so we resisted, and all this energy that's available to us to actually create the change, to embrace the change, to embrace the transformation that the change is calling us to, is misused as resistance. And really, whatever we resist really becomes a blockage, right? Resistance always becomes a blockage. So the conscious way is to move out of that resistance and to move into embracing what wants to happen here. Now, the word transformation is not always a positive word for everyone, right? They're like, whoa, 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 hold on there, Reverend Gregory. I didn't necessarily ask for transformation. You know, maybe a little change here and there, but transformation, that sounds kind of scary. You know, like I'm going to have to go through some fire or something, or some wind or some sort of storm. And that is not necessarily always the case, but it could be uncomfortable for a while, right? It could be uncomfortable for a while. But transformation really is always leading us into becoming a greater version of who we are, right? Ernest Holmes talked about that life is always moving forward, never backward. So we're never going back to some former time. We're always being called into the newness of what wants to emerge as us. I was also reflecting on an experience I had many years ago. The first time I left North America, I was in graduate school, and I decided that I wanted to be an exchange student, and that didn't work out. And so I was already like set that I wanted to be abroad for that semester. And so I figured out a way that I could do it on my own, that I could create my own kind of like internship abroad. And I went to Lausanne, Switzerland, and to take on a 4-week intensive French language class where we were immersed in the language and we were going to learn the language. And it was very exciting to me. I was very excited. I'd never even left the continent before. I had left the country, but never left the continent. I'd been to like the Caribbean and things like that. And so there I was, and I had put so much of my focus and attention was on the logistics of it all, because it was a lot to figure out in order for me to do this. It was a very unconventional thing I had done, and I had to like convince a lot of people and kind of create my own structure for it. And so I had focused so much on the logistics of it all that I had really not paid much attention to what the landscape was, or what the geography was, or the topography was of the place that I was going to. I mean, if I would have really thought about it, it would have come into my awareness, but my attention just was not there. And so the first couple days in Lausanne, which was this beautiful, quaint little Swiss town, it was cloudy and overcast. And so it was kind of like a cocoon. It was kind of like this little cocoon I was in. You know how when it's like a cloudy and overcast day and the clouds are really low and you're kind of like in this nice little comfortable space of a cocoon, right? So the first couple days, you know, I walked to class, which was about a mile or so from where I was staying. And it was just in this beautiful, comfortable little cocoon. And on the third day, the clouds lifted and the fog lifted and all of that lifted. It was a beautiful sunny day. And so I was walking along to class, just so happy that it was a beautiful day. And very shortly, I suddenly looked up and it almost blew me over with awe that the Swiss Alps were like right there. And I had not even been able to see it because I was in this little cocoon of the clouds and all of that. And I was also in this cocoon of logistics and figuring it all out so that I didn't have my sights to see the bigger picture. And it was just such an I was so awestruck in that moment to suddenly, this amazing sight of the Swiss Alps to be thrust upon me without any expectation on my part, right? It's not like I was like, oh, I can't wait to see the Swiss Alps, and then I see the Swiss Alps. No, it's like I'm just walking along like I'm going to class and I'm walking my normal route and there's nothing to see except the architecture and the various structures. And suddenly the Swiss Alps in all of their majesty, I mean, just such largeness, such magnitude of a natural entity. And there it was before me, the Swiss Alps suddenly, that I had not been able to see when it was so cloudy and foggy and I was in that little cocoon. And it reminded me of moving through change, right? That's kind of like one of those cocoon things when we're in transformation, right? We're gathering all of our energy. We're within a little bit. We're in our world becomes a little bit smaller. We can't focus on a lot of other things, right? We're just trying to deal with the change. We're trying to deal with what's going on here. Where's my place? Am I going to lose my place? Who's going to be here? Who's going to be there? Right? We're trying to work with it and we're in that little cocoon, and yet some great good is coming about for us. This transformation is really about us stepping into some larger version of who we are individually, as well as in the case of a community, right? That we're really stepping into this larger, we're being called into this larger sense of who we are, and yet it feels like loss because what we feel initially is the things we've lost, the things that have gone away, the things that aren't familiar, the familiar things that aren't there anymore. And then the unknown aspect of it. Well, where are we going? Are we even going to survive? Right? We experience this as individuals, and then we also experience it in community. Most of the communities that I've worked with as an interim minister have had this thought of, are we going to survive? Or is this change going to just decimate us and we'll be gone? And every single one of them, of course, I've guided to the other side of the change and the other side of the transformation so that they got to the other side. They got to the next shore, right? That we're sailing along, we're in the middle of the sea being tossed about, but eventually we start to see the other shore. We start to see, I can kind of get a faint sense of it. I can't quite make it all out yet, but I can kind of see the other shore. I kind of see an outline of some buildings, some structures, some landscape. I'm starting to see it. I can't quite make it out. And then eventually it starts to come clearer and clearer into focus. And we start to say, we start to get excited, right? Like, oh, wow, look at that mountain over there. And look at that beautiful building over there. I wonder what that is. I can't wait till we get to shore so I can explore that. And I can kind of work with that and build on that and enjoy that. But it's a journey, right? It's a journey getting there. And the first part of the journey might be not as comfortable. And yet it's calling us to something greater. Transformation is always calling us into being a greater version of ourselves. And yes, there's that sense of loss at first, because sometimes we kind of like the familiar. Sometimes we kind of like things how they are. Sometimes like me, when it's like, going through a change as a minister, it's like, oh no, I right now in one of the communities that I'm serving, there are a couple key people, one of whom has already said that she's moving away, and the other has said that she's probably going to move away to be closer to her family. And for me personally, it's kind of like, those people are already in place doing things that I love that they're doing. And it's like, no, I want them to stay there. Those are the things that I've got under control, right? Those are the things that are working well, and I want to work on these other things. And yet change is happening there. And I have to remember that that is calling us into something new. That is calling us into an opening for someone else to step up, for something new to emerge. And I have to not resist, but I have to let go of that temptation to try to grasp and hold on, or to fret that, like, oh my God, poor me, that these people are going away just when I was having everything working well and ready to launch into some newness. And it's like, no, let me get excited about the possibilities, even though I can't see them yet, even though the shore is too distant. The next shore is too distant for me to see. Let me begin to get excited anyway. This is the path of faith, right? This is the path of trust, where we begin to know that everything is always unfolding in divine order and divine timing. So let me know that already. Let me trust that already. Let me know that already. And let me embrace that even before I can see it. This is the life of faith, right? This is the life of trust, where we trust in divine order. We trust that everything is unfolding perfectly, even before we can see it. And that is the way that we begin to transcend some of the human condition that has us resist change, that has change really be a not so positive thing. And it becomes a way for us to start to get excited about change. Well, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know something amazing is going to happen. I don't know where we're going to be and what it's going to look like and all of that, but I know it's going to be amazing, because transformation is always calling me into a greater version of myself. And the community I'm in, it's always calling the community into a greater version of itself. So that's my invitation to you all today. My invitation to you today is to really embrace this change that you all are going through, and to recognize that it really is the entryway to your transformation. And your transformation is the opening to you becoming a greater version of who you are. Even though there's a lot in you that might be wanting to reach back to what was that was so good, right? But it was already good before. Can't we just go back there? And unfortunately, the answer is no, right? As Ernest Holmes said, life always moves in a forward direction, never backwards. So the only real option is, well, there's a couple options. One, we can resist it and try to keep trying to go back anyway, even though that's not the nature of things. Or the other option that's more productive and more in alignment is to start to embrace it, and embrace the not knowing, embrace the being uncomfortable, right? And to begin to get excited about what might be possible for you, for the community, for the world. Because something good is always emerging. I thank you for being present today, and I'm really excited to work with you all. I'm really excited about what we'll do together and what we'll discover together and what we'll open up together, and what kind of transformation and what kind of newness will start to be seen and known and felt and experienced, and that we'll be calling forth, but also surrendering into. I'm so excited, and it's a joy. And I look forward to meeting each and every one of you, working with you. A lot of our work will be virtual, and yet my last community I worked with, because I started working with them right at the beginning of COVID, was pretty much almost all virtual, except that I did make a couple visits there, which I'm sure I will do with you all as well, because we got to meet each other too eventually. Can't be all virtual. But I look forward to this, and I'm so grateful. Let us turn within for prayer for a moment here. And so I just turned within to know in this moment that God is, Spirit is, that there is one life, one power, one infinite presence of love, of wholeness, of harmony. And that this one expresses through and as all that is. It is my very life and being. I know that I am a divine expression of that one. And not only is that the truth of me, it is the truth of every person who is in this community, every person who is listening, watching the service today, every person who is not watching the service today. Each one a unique way that the divine is expressing. And so it is in this consciousness that I speak my word and declare and know that the changes that have happened and are happening in this community are, in truth, a call for transformation. And this transformation is, in truth, leading each one and all into a greater version of who each one and all is. And so I embrace this, and I know that all the ways and the means are being shown and given and provided, for the Spirit knows exactly what we have need of, even before we ask. And the answer is yes. Everything is provided, everything is in divine order. And so I know that as we say yes, and as our yes expands, and as our yes grows and becomes bigger and bigger, that the answer was already yes before we even started saying yes. And so our yes meets with the yes of the good that is trying to unfold, that is wanting to unfold, that is unfolding for each one of us and all of us. And that magnification of the yes, that magnification of the good, so much wonderful splendor is unfolding. And so I just bless it all and call it all good and very good. I am so grateful for this truth, so grateful for this awareness, so grateful for all the good that is unfolding right here, right now, regardless of appearances. Good is unfolding, and I am grateful. I release this word, I let it be, and I invite each one to ground it and accept it with me, with the words, and so it is. Amen. Blessings, much love.
Hello again, everyone. I would just like to thank Reverend Gregory for that phenomenal message, and note that Spirit is always in great synchronicity, and I am just so very grateful for that. So it is in that sense of gratitude that I am pleased to present you with our opportunity to show gratitude for all that has transpired here today. Our center is solely operated based on your gifts of your time, your talent, and your treasures, and we are so very grateful for them. We offer several ways for you to give. You can text your tithe to 239-320-3820. You can send your contribution through PayPal at paypal@cslcapecoral.org. You can visit our website at cslcapecoral.org and click the donate button on our page, or you can also set up a automatic transfer of funds on a weekly, bi-weekly, or a monthly basis on our website. You can mail a check to CSL Cape Coral at 406 Southeast 24th Avenue, Cape Coral, Florida 33990. And you can even support your spiritual home through your online shopping with Amazon. Simply visit smile.amazon.com and select the Center for Spiritual Living Cape Coral as your charity of choice. If you're joining us in person, there are branded vessels near the exit, and you can place your gift in those on your way out. Please know that your generosity expands far beyond just our spiritual home. Your gifts allow us to support local charities like ACT, Hearts and Homes for Vets, the Cape Coral Police Department Children's Program, and the Cape Coral Caring Center, who provides food and emergency financial assistance to families in Lee County. I invite you to hold your tithe between your hands if you have it available, and if not, please join me in placing your hands over your heart as I speak our tithing affirmation. Today, I know the activity of divine abundance is at work in my life and the life of this center. I give and receive generously as I live in the flow of bountiful good. And now I speak a word of blessing over these tithes. With appreciation and love, I accept these offerings and gifts. Divine love through me blesses each gift and each giver. I know that all that has been given here circulates to do great works both within this spiritual community and in the world at large. Standing in gratitude, I release these words. So please join me in saying, and so it is. And now I would like to invite our Leadership Council Vice President, Kay Atwood, up for a special announcement.
Thank you, Mel. Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure today to honor one of our members, and I would like her to come up, Cassie Kuykendall, as she is so surprised. She had no idea this was coming. Come on up. You don't need your mask. It's okay. We want to see your beautiful face as you smile and get this. This is a certificate, Cassie, for the class that you completed, the spiritual principles and practices. And so Cassie has invested her time and energy in advancing her spiritual knowledge and path, and we would just like to thank you for that and acknowledge you for it. Okay.
Aw, that's so sweet. So I am your human invitation to some things going on here at the center. And the first one coming up is coming up here soon, April 17th. It's a Zoom class called Zen Tangle Method. And this is just a really fun, exploring art class or presentation. And it is also a fundraiser. So hope to see you there. It is on the 17th, like I said, at 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. via Zoom, and it is a $25 donation. And so it does benefit the center, so we hope to see you there. We have a couple of book clubs. I and my another practitioner, Malika, are doing a conscious prosperity book study on The Infinite Way by Joel Goldsmith, which we had our first class last week, is very lovely. There's still time to jump in. You can always jump in. Malika and I like to keep our classes open to whoever wants to join in. So just catch up on your reading and join us. It is a $30 per month love donation, and we have great conversation. So please, if you don't join us this time, join us sometime, because book studies are so much fun. And Valerie Data is doing a book study, and she has changed the time on this, I think probably because it was more convenient for some people. It is starting April 18th, 7:30 to 7:45 p.m., which is a Sunday. And just really good stuff. Hers is a love donation based on whatever you want to give, and you can go to our Facebook page to get more information and to register. And we have an April birthday celebration coming up. It is a social event supporting our community and those who are celebrating April birthdays. It is on Friday, April 16th coming up from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at beautiful Lakes Park in South Fort Myers, Pavilion B3. So bring a dish and a beverage and come and bike and kayak and walk and paddle boat and just have lots of fun and laughs, because we've been locked up for so long. It'll be so much fun. And for further questions, you can contact Jeanette at 608-347-1782, and it ought to be a lot of big fun. We have an ongoing midweek tune-up with Melissa Tuff, and that's where we're still gathering outside. we're gathering outside under the oak trees and socially distanced, wearing masks, having wonderful, amazing spiritual conversation. We have an ongoing food drive. We appreciate all of those of you who have brought your donations, knowing that the need is still ever present. We appreciate your donations, so bring them to the center and they will be distributed to those who need them. When our service is over, we do ask that you take the conversations outside, so those who are responsible for keeping our amazing center sanitized and clean can do so, and we can have lovely conversation out under the oak trees and bump elbows with each other. So I welcome you now. This is where we stand in the light together, so I welcome everyone to stand. And this is a time when we just place the names of our loved ones, our family, our friends into the prayer field as we hold them in our prayers together. And anyone is welcome. And those of you at home also feel free, because we know there is no time or space in God. So please welcome to add names to this field, whether you're here or you are virtual. I am standing in the light for my beautiful son, Cole, knowing his absolute perfection and wholeness. I am standing in the light for all the unspoken names, and I invite you right here, right now, to place your own name into this prayer field. Linda. And just absolutely knowing, as there is only one thing happening across this great, amazing universe, this thing called God, this thing called good, this thing called love and peace and beauty and joy and harmony and balance and order, knowing it is all here right now with each and every one of us throughout this day and each and every day, knowing that that divine provision that goes ahead providing everything that is needed has already done so, that we leave here in a field of grace, walking out and continuing to have our journey in this journey of love together, knowing that we are always supported and guided. I do give great thanks to know these truths, to hold these truths together. And so together we can come together in agreement and grounding this word by saying together, and so it is. Thank you.
We let the love wash over us. We let it be. We let peace, we let
The peace
watch over us. Yeah. Let it be. We let joy, let it fill your heart, let it fill your soul, watch over and over you. Oh, let it be. We let love watch over us, watch over and over us, yeah. Oh, let it be. We let love watch over us, watch over and over us. wonderful week.